other viruses that are mosquito-borne that are also moving into the area too. So I think this is going to continue for at least 4 or 5 years into the future that I can see right now.
Thank you. Maybe two more, and again, this has been great, Keith. I appreciate it. Again, another thing we touched on earlier, but I just want to make sure I get your experience and full kind of guidance. Obviously, there's some regulations, there's some licensing in this market, right? You know, this isn't home cleaning necessarily, or other things where it's not the case. So just, again, kind of maybe summarize for me what I need to know in terms of what the realities are in terms of your standard kind of regulation or licensing question for this industry.
So every individual branch location in most states has to have a licensed operator. Licensed operator has to be, in most states, they've got to be involved in the industry for about 4 years in order to take the qualifying certified applicator type exam. Once that person becomes that expert to the state that they determine to be the certified applicator, then he can hire technicians underneath them. Scale up, it's typically a 2-month ramp up to get a technician ready to go to be able to legally apply. So the other problem that we have, to your point, is not only do you have the labor problem of finding the right person, if you have turnover and you don't have a deep bench available to you, then you've got customers that aren't being serviced on the regular intervals if you're not careful, because it takes lead up time to get them to pass those tests according to the state and to be able to be legally able to do those services.
So I'm probably missing something here. I just want to clarify. You said that there's kind of a 4-year experience gate. Is that an accurate starting
Correct.
point?
In most states, yes.
So how would I start if I moved to Texas and wanted to sign up with Mosquito fill in the blank and be a franchisee? And again, it's a silly question, and I know there's an answer, but just in layman's terms, if I don't have 4 years, how does that work in the real world with franchisees, with somebody who wants to enter this business?
They typically go find somebody that has a license somewhere. They get a list from they FOI a list from the Department of Agriculture, and they find the ones that are certified applicators, and that becomes your first hire most of the time.
Wow.
Is you have to find a certified applicator. Now, a lot of these guys that step off into that industry are guys that have been involved in pest control already before, and they kind of see, hey, they either like the mosquito side of it or they don't. And if they want to work, we have some people that want 8 months a year. If that's the case, then they can take that experience that they had and they can bring it into it. There's other categories, the caveats that can kind of change it. If somebody has a 4-year degree and their background is in entomology, or they've got enough science, then the state will allow them to cleft the 4 years in order to take the test. There's some workarounds, but there's very few.
Excellent. Last question. You've kind of heard my line of thinking and maybe can connect some dots, but also kind of heard the setup at the beginning. I kind of rattled through in no particular order some supply side, demand side, market stuff, licensing, labor, et cetera, et cetera. What am I not asking? What else would you share with me so I can learn more about this space, please?
I think that's the biggest things that we've learned from it is we've got to constantly be learning about it. So there's some associations, the Mosquito Control Association that's out there. There's a lot of literature being put out there. There's some new traps and new technology that's going into play. So whoever steps into that category really has to make an investment, decide I'm going to stay involved in this and learn as I go, because this thing's moving. People are learning more about it as we go, and people are taking what we thought was nobody would ever pay for in terms of monthly mosquito treatments, and we're turning it into good-sized revenue blocks. So I think that's the key to it, is just that person has to commit to staying involved and growing in this thing and staying on top of technology as we continue to grow and learn more about these viruses and these specific mosquitoes that we're dealing with.
Perfect. Thank you. There is a follow-up to that, though. It would seem to me, and again, hypothesis for you to react to, that last point might lend itself to the franchise approach being somewhat compelling if somebody did want to enter this, because to the extent that, and I frankly don't know if this is true, the franchisor kind of